Welcome to this explainer. Today, we're tackling a massive, literally world-changing puzzle in human history. Think about it. When society stopped taking a literal belief in God as a given, we didn't just lose Sunday services. We were suddenly left with this massive structural void. Civilization was basically losing the very glue that validated its laws and held the whole shebang together. And, if you've ever looked around at how incredibly fragmented modern society feels today, well, understanding this historical scramble to fill that void is absolutely crucial.
Which brings us to a really fascinating, kind of surprising paradox. Is atheism actually impossible? I know, it sounds absurd to ask that today, but as we unpack this, you're going to see exactly why shedding religion entirely was way harder than the intellectuals of the Enlightenment ever bargained for. You literally cannot just erase thousands of years of ideological infrastructure overnight without something collapsing.
The philosopher Terry Eagleton hits the nail on the head here. He says, atheism is by no means as easy as it looks. And that's because society relied on religion to function on a practical, everyday level. So when that literal belief started to fade, something else had to desperately take the wheel to keep the gears of society turning.
So here is our roadmap for today. We're looking at the impossible atheism, hating priests, the double truth, the coldness of reason, and wrapping up with the new stand-ins.
All right, part one, the impossible atheism.
So there's this really widely held misconception that modern secularization just kind of wipes religion off the map in one clean sweep. But Terry Eagleton argues that societies don't actually become secular by destroying religion. Actually, they become secular when they just stop being so agitated by it. Religion doesn't just vanish into thin air, right? It just loses that intense, white-hot grip on public and political life. It goes from being the core organizing principle of a whole nation to more of a quiet background hum.
To put that into perspective, take a look at the UK back in 2011. 61% of people claimed a religion, but only 29% claimed to actually be religious. That's a huge gap. It shows how faith has largely retreated into a private pastime. It's become something that operates in the private sphere, almost like a personal hobby, rather than serving as the fundamental foundation of the state.
Moving on to part two, hating priests, not God.
Let's talk about the Enlightenment. It's famous for being this relentless war against faith, right? You'd probably think these guys wanted to wipe out the concept of God entirely. But the historical reality is way different. Intellectual heavyweights like Locke and Voltaire, they weren't atheists, they were deists. Deism is essentially the belief in a supreme being based entirely on rational thought. They wanted to strip away all the messy stuff, like revelation, sectarian dogma, and supernatural intervention. What they really wanted was a polite, civilized religion that was, frankly, perfectly suited for a pleasant coffeehouse conversation.
Their true enemy wasn't God, it was priestcraft. It was the oppressive political power of the church. They absolutely despised that unholy alliance of throne and altar, where kings and clerics were using divine mandates to keep the people subjugated. So the real target here was always the oppressive power structure, not the Almighty himself.
Which brings us to part three, the double truth.
Now, dismantling that power structure created a massive headache for maintaining social order, and this led to a deeply, deeply ironic compromise. Thinkers started championing what's known as the double truth thesis. Basically, the elites decided they would keep a sanitized, rational, deist God for themselves. But for the uneducated masses, they actively encouraged a terrifying, superstitious God. Because, let's be real, polite reason wasn't exactly going to keep the commoners in line and paying their taxes. For that, they figured they needed the good old-fashioned threat of eternal hellfire.
The historian Carl Becker summed this up brilliantly. He wrote, "They courageously discussed atheism, but not before the servants." That is so telling, isn't it? The elites were terrified, literally terrified, that exposing the general public to pure reason would dissolve their fear of authority and spark a massive rebellion. So keeping that traditional religious fear alive, that was an absolute political necessity for the ruling class.
Part 4. The coldness of reason. But here's the thing. The Enlightenment's grand solution of implementing universal reason eventually slammed right into a brick wall. Replacing a passionate, deeply personal God with cold logic had a fatal structural flaw. The core problem is that reason totally lacks a bodily and emotional presence. It's just too cold, too abstract, and too impersonal to inspire the kind of passionate allegiance a society needs. It can't offer the ecstatic fulfillment that binds a community together. I mean, you can't mourn a tragedy or celebrate a triumph with a mathematical equation, right? It just doesn't work. And because you simply cannot make people fall in love with mathematical clarity, intellectuals had to scramble. They started inventing this extensive list of secular stand-ins, what became known as the Viceroys for God. We're talking about concepts like reason, nature, Geist or spirit, culture, art, and the sublime. These were the new heavy lifters. They were heavily relied upon to shoulder that massive ideological burden and give people something larger than themselves to actually believe in.
Finally, Part 5, the new stand-ins. To really see how society tried to fix this emotional coldness, we have to fast forward to the 19th century and look at the incredible evolution brought about by the German idealist philosophers. Enter idealism. This was a philosophical system that essentially acted as a secularized theology. It positioned mind, spirit, or freedom as the fundamental reality of the world. Thinkers like Hegel and Schelling were trying to repair that deep rift between abstract mind and dead nature. They argued that the material world itself wasn't just inert matter, but was actually alive with this dynamic spirit. So if we track the evolution of ultimate authority, it moved systematically across 3 distinct phases. First, you start with an orthodox God. Then, that gets replaced by cold reason during the Enlightenment. And finally, it evolves into an infinitely deep, secular human freedom and spirit. Humanity essentially made itself the center of the cosmos.
But honestly, this new foundation is terrifying in its own right. Why? Because subjectivity goes all the way down. Think about that. If the ultimate source of everything is just human subjectivity and infinite freedom, well, there's no solid ground left beneath it. You can't look behind your own consciousness to see what's propping it up. There's literally nothing there but an abyss.
So, the crucial question we're left to ponder today is this. As modern society continues to build its entire worldview upon the absolute freedom of the individual, are we standing on a sturdy foundation, or are we simply in freefall? It is a profound dilemma, and it's one that is shaping the very fabric of our culture right now. Thanks so much for joining me for this explainer, and I will catch you next time.